Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dance to the Music. This is episode, I don't know which one, 18 or 19. Actually, no, I'm lying. We'll find out once I put it in the description. If you have been subscribing already, thank you so much. If you have not, please do so. It's just a click and it's free, but it helps a lot. Thank you so much. So, and with this being said, the man of the hour, my guest today is the man, the myth, the legend, Rich Medina.
Wow.
Hi. Yeah, I know I had to do this because
Amazing.
I gave you a bullet point introduction before on one of our previous recorded conversations. So I'm going to have to, top it up a
You gotta
notch.
Take it up a notch now, right?
Welcome for coming here from, I think you're coming from Brooklyn now, but from Miami via Philly, via
Yeah.
all the cities.
This was a short trip today.
Yeah, this was a long time in the making, but thank you, you made it. This is our third recorded conversation, if I'm not mistaken. I also peeped that today's Fela Kuti's birthday, so this is, I guess it was meant to be.
It's a pretty important day all around.
Yeah. I don't want to assume that people know who Rich Medina is, but I'm sure there's some young ones out there that don't know. However, I'm not going to go into details of like where you're from, where you're born, when you started DJing, all of that. We've spoken about this already. I know there's a lot of interviews with you out there. And also I don't want to repeat myself like that. However, the interviews that Rich and I have done in 2016, I think, and 2020 are still out there. If you want to listen or read it, actually one is only in written format. Please do so. All right, let me get started. I do want to kind of start the where we left off, which we just spoke about it. It was in 2020, like 4 years ago, literally. And amongst many important things, I think the last thing was you was talking about checking analytics on Twitch and trying to figure out what it means and, doing all the shows and doing all the different things. Since then, a lot of things have happened, obviously. So let's jump into the move to Miami. Let's start there. My question to you is actually, have you prior to that offer, move, all the things, have you ever considered running your own venture space? Venue, yeah, I guess is the best way.
Well, from the end of 1995 through 2000, I was a co-owner of a retail shop in Philadelphia called Footwork. That was a partnership with Babito Garcia. He had a New York footwork store, and it's funny, Bob and Crazy Legs came to visit me in Philly, which they did often at the time, and they came to see me play at the Palmer Social Club, and both of them were like, you don't need these people, you need to open your own venue. There's 3 floors here, there's 1,000 people here, 650 of them are on your floor, you should open your own place. And I was like, just totally taken aback that I'd never considered anything like that. And that conversation by the end of the weekend morphed into Babito saying, hey, if it's not a venue, perhaps we should think about partnering and opening a sister store to my New York store. So that happened, and Babito's Footwork Philadelphia lasted 4 years and change. That was my first endeavor as a business owner, as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I think we made some huge impact in Philadelphia and New York in particular, but across the board in terms of the independent creatives matrix, from rap records to visual artists to poets to performers. I think it was one of the things that helped establish us as champions of the culture. And it was really eye-opening because after 4 years and change, we were like, okay, we could be retail guy, or we could dive into all these career opportunities that both of us have. But we're not going to be good at both. neither of us is going to be good at both, so we have to make some decisions, and that was when the decision was made to close the shop and dive into everything that's landed us here today. So beyond opening Footwork, I hadn't considered it again. It wasn't on my mind like, yeah, you know, I want to open something or I want to own something. I was just always concerned with the art.
Okay, so how, since then, since you are now part owner of Dante's, how has the transition been for you from going from being a contractor, being hired to play at other people's venues, to now being the person, to being an owner, musical director, if I got it right, and the person who's hiring other people to play at your place? What are some of the things that are maybe new to you, even though it's like it makes sense that you are the person, right, being at Dante's, but are there certain things that are, you know, new to the part of it?
I think you stated it perfectly. It makes perfect sense that I'm in the position that I'm in now as an owner and as the music director of a venue. And at the same time, every time you finish at one level and you go to the next level, you're just a rookie again. You just start, you know, you're really starting fresh. You're putting muscle on muscle. That fresh start lives on top of muscle that you've already developed. But, you know, sitting at the owner's table versus hoping you get called to the owner's table with an offer is an enormous difference. And, you know, for me, it was just learning how to use my experience to my best advantage as an owner, and at the same time to not approach it like owners that I've dealt with before who want to get as much as they possibly can out of you for as little as possible, and have no problem stating that up front, that they're not going to compensate you well, they're not going to provide some of the things that an artist, particularly a DJ, needs to be at their best at game time. And 30 plus years of experience in that, I know the bedside manner required to address artists and DJs with the right humility and the right disposition, especially when you're dealing with a small space with a limited budget, and you have to convince people that even though they won't be getting a particular dollar figure, there's a different kind of currency that exists in working with a place like ours, and that currency is going to allow them to find ways to meet their value at places that do have the financial means to look after them that way. So it's been 3 years of learning, 3 years of very, very serious learning for me.
It's crazy because I feel like within leading up to my next question, right, besides Dante's being a physical space, I feel like within a very short amount of time, you said 3 years, which flew by, it became also a cultural institution, and people come there because of, not, yes, of course, the musical listening experience, but I feel like it became and I'm not from Miami, so I can't really speak on the scene there. It's just like what I view from the outside looking in. But it's become like a staple, like a big staple there. What can you tell us about like Dante's being an educational and a cultural institution that maybe not even just in its four walls, but I know you've worked with the Montreal Jazz Festival and like on cruises, on summits. Like, what are some of the aspects that you see you be able to be pushing further along with the day-to-day business?
The starting point for me in terms of making Dante's a cultural institution was to make sure that I'm providing space for the record lovers in the city, inside the city limits of Miami, inside Miami-Dade County, inside of Broward County, across the whole panhandle in Florida. It was very important to me to come into town and to show the local people in town. And I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm actually here to provide a space for people like you, because you are like me in the sense of loving records and loving music culture. And I wanted the city to know that this is a place that it belongs to you before it belongs to me or any other out of town people that I might bring into town. So taking that approach to the venue brought me a lot of confidence from people in the city, who some of whom were established and didn't have a space where they could showcase their establishment. Some people who have a incredible record collection, incredible musical knowledge, and every venue in the city is essentially built for digital and don't really pay any credence to analog DJing. And all the people that have, for lack of a better way to put it, looked up to guys like me and always felt like we were too far in the distance for them to touch, or too far up the ladder for them to have access to, and to make myself accessible to the community and share the information that I've learned over the years, and share technique and perspective and resources with people who have felt marginalized by the industry, you know? So it started with the local community for me, and luckily, beyond what I bring to the table as a partner in the ownership, my business partners are very, very, very successful in Miami before I got there. They have their hands in 12, 13 other super successful franchises in Miami. So for them, this is another notch on the belt. For me, it's my very first piece of ownership. They have a lot of experience and a lot of wherewithal from their ownership experience, and I have a great deal of experience from working out in the wild that I could bring to a table like this table. So it's a perfect storm of their local success, my international and domestic experience, all coming together inside of their wheelhouse. And just, respecting the space that you come into, I think, is an enormous thing that we all share, whether it's dancers, as a disc jockey, as a performer. Respect the space. Respect the people who are giving you an opportunity. So coming to the table with that disposition, it just opened up so many doors for me, because I'm showing the city that I'm not here to create competition. The backside of that, being honest, is I don't believe there is any competition. I believe I'm the best at what I do. With that being the case, I need more people who believe in themselves that way by my side. I don't want any more followers. I'm looking for new leaders. So taking that leadership posture has also really been like a beautiful opening of opportunity and relationships, whether it's locally with everyone I just discussed, or opportunities to do pop-ups at the Soho House in Austin for a whole year, to be able to do pop-ups at the Montreux Jazz Festival in Montreux, Switzerland, and in Miami for the last 2.5, 3 years, to pop up at Newport Jazz Festival, to be creating these co-branded relationships where venues that might be a half a step off of the style of music presenting that we do want to do a collaboration with us, because they believe that our brand represents quality and represents the culture with the right manner. So it's been a real blessing in that sense.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
You've touched on it obviously within what you just said, but I'm wondering if you have maybe a few general points as far as like what it takes to become a cultural institution. Some people might not have the experience of decades of running businesses already, but they want to open, maybe start small, right? Maybe that's their first. And maybe, to me, one might say it looks like the right place at the right time when this opportunity came about for you, because you've spent many years in Philly and in New York, where, maybe something could have eventually happened in any other city. So I'm making all the big circle to come back to my point. If it's any other city or somebody living somewhere else that wants to create a space that they want to open for other people, but really make it meaningful, are there some general points that are not necessarily specific to you personally?
Yeah, for sure. I think intent is everything. I think the root of it is intent. A lot of people say, I want to do this and I want to do that, and they're looking for breadcrumbs that are going to land them at an end game. Whereas functioning from a space of intent is more of a relationship with the process. How do I make people in this place believe what I stated online as my intent, or what I wrote and said that this is what I represent? What am I doing every day to make that part of my everyday being? So it's not always a speech or an announcement and then the followers come. It doesn't work that way. You have to nurture the space that you want to be a part of. I'm one of the few people that can call themselves a made man in New York. I'm made in New York. I've never lived in New York. I'm an honorary New Yorker. The reason it is that way is because I came here, I did the work, I didn't really ask for a lot. I just asked, where are the people who believe in this thing the way I do, and began spending time with them, began showing up. I put my money where my mouth is. I put the miles on my body and on my car, traveling from Philadelphia for 30 years, 93 miles from bridge to tunnel. And 8 times out of 10, I beat my host to the venue. 8 times out of 10, I'm one of the last people to leave the venue. 8 times out of 10, I'm part of the entertainment in that night. And if I'm not doing the entertaining, 8 times out of 10, I'm in the wild with the people, socializing and engaging the space as a member of the community, not as somebody who's coming here trying to give you something that you need, right? And the way the information age works and the way the world is set up now, it can put people in this posture where they feel like they have to have this like Pied Piper messaging that everyone, if anyone thinks the way I think, they're going to fall in line with what I have to say. And it's not that simple. If you process and intent, and the development of relationships that have the ability to last outside of the work. Look at our relationship.
Yeah,
to make it, you've done everything from dance to me DJing to help me organize the processes that go behind my events, whether it's jump and funk or boat parties. You've watched my child, like,
yeah,
that's all led to me now being in your forum, building with you about helping other people understand some of the dynamics that go into making yourself part of a community and part of a space of people that are going to show up for you when you ask, because you've shown up for me. We break bread. We're friends, associates, and we've done business. That's very strange. It's almost an anomaly of relationships in this world that we're in. And I think that without that, anybody's going to be hard pressed to create something from the ground up.
Very true. Yeah, I think you said the information age, because everything is expected to happen so fast.
I want to microwave everything, and this stuff that we're talking about is slow cooking. Exactly. And that slow cooking comes in man hours, sweat equity, The amount of 10,000 hours. We all got the same 10,000 hours. We're all at different points on that scale and on that trajectory. It's not about I have more hours than you. It's about, oh, you're putting in your hours too? Okay. So whether you just got here or I just got here, our intent matches in some way or another. So I can always learn something from you. You can always learn something from me. And as long as people treat each other with that fashion, especially from a leadership position, you know, patience is a virtue and time heals all wounds. You just got to do the work.
Speaking of cultural institutions, let's go back a little bit in time and speak of another cultural institutions, in my eyes, APT, which I'm always going to be a student of APT. And that was kind of like, now looking back, I went to school back home, but this is like my American university in nightlife, if I can say it like that. Yeah, sure. And where you've had other residencies in New York and other places, but APT, and correct me if I'm wrong, was like your Little Ricky's Shack Wednesdays was kind of like where your career went again on into a different level. Is that English? Into?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, this two-part question kind of, do you think that a residency like this, again in the information age, where somebody can come in or is, hired to come in every week for many hours to, as you said it before, sharpen their tools, is that still possible? That's number one. Yeah, let's just start there. Given that nightlife has changed in my eyes.
Nightlife has changed a great deal since the 10-year window of APT's run. APT was, for argument's sake, 2000 to 2010. 9/11 happened a year after APT opened. There was a moment of humanity going on to the degree that even though APT was a great new opportunity for all of us, a month after 9/11, it didn't feel right partying in New York until we all got together and realized that I can now count the people who are still here. I can now have dialogues with people who lost people in 9/11. I lost people in 9/11. It became a forum of healing, a church of sorts, where you knew, whether it was my night on Wednesdays, whether it was Bobito's night, Spinner's night, Kenny Dope's night, Rude Movements, Negro Clash, Tim Sweeney, any of the residency nights that were at APT, there was a community of people who were really looking for community in a very human level way. It was almost a cherry on top that you're there listening to these seasoned, experienced DJs who are being given an opportunity by a venue who prides itself in being an in-the-know venue, not so promotionally over-pronounced that it's run over by weekend warriors and people who just want to go out and go to the cool, hip thing in New York. It was one of those last bastions of, if you know, you know. And if you don't, you should probably come with somebody who does know, because there's a capacity issue, there's a disposition issue, and there's a cultural family type of dynamic here that whether we knew how to address it at the time or not, the incident of 9/11 fed the community dynamic of APT in a very interesting way. When we came back to APT after 9/11, the Twin Tower spaces were still smoldering. I have DVF, what do you call them? DVS, the little tapes, not the VHS, the little recording tapes. Yeah, I have tape of riding into the Holland Tunnel and seeing the lights. Remember when the lights were going up and it was still smoldering there, and it was just this strange feeling of loss and thankfulness to still be alive, the thankfulness that we had a place where people felt like this was more than just going out to party and have fun. We're actually helping each other get past a really, really ugly occurrence in the city of New York. And that healing led to a great deal of positivity, a great deal of positive energy. And because the capacity at APT was so small and the service provided was so large, whether it was the food, the craft cocktails, or the fact that we're in this tiny room playing on this giant Function One sound system that just sounded absolutely bananas. It was like nothing that any of us had ever experienced in the city before, even though we had plenty of club experience, plenty of party experience. So I feel like I may have gone off on a bit of a tangent from the question.
Maybe,
but
I don't know.
But I think it ties back into how did that change, how did APT affect me, and how did it change things in my career? There were people that only liked the way I played records prior to that venue because they were seeing me at Fun when I was DJing with Prince Language, and there was 800 people in there, and maybe you don't get close enough to say hello. But at APT, the minute I leave the booth to go to the bathroom, I have no choice but to either say hello to you or say excuse me so I can get past you to get to the bathroom. And that leads to dialogues, that leads to actual tangible relationships. And that community, all of us, patrons, presenters, promoters from other places that would come utilize our clientele to draw bodies to their spaces. I think it changed partying for everyone over that 10-year period.
I have a feeling that a lot of people who obviously went to APT at that time and who then come to, like, if you still do it occasionally, a reunion of like your APT Little Ricky, either on the boat or any other anniversary or like party, I feel like they miss obviously that part of like community, because it was whether it was 4 or 40 people down there or 400, even though you couldn't even fit 400 in there, but somehow they all, I'm sure there were 400 people in there at some point. So I mean, that it was every Wednesday you could make sure that there's somebody in there that you could talk to, or that you've seen before, but not on some, like you say, like a weird nightlife going out, like, it's like a sense of community. And I think that's what's missing.
Yeah.
And
it probably sounds romantic to people that didn't experience it. Sounds like we're aggrandizing this very simple thing, but it's not aggrandization at all, because I think you can, whether you speak to people like you who have been there from day one, people like me who have been there from day one as an artist, or people who were brought there 5 years in, I mean, we had everybody in there. There was 21-year-olds, there was 50-year-olds, there was megastars, there were people who were just figuring out who they are as people, let alone artists or anything like that. It was that real taste of old New York, a room that was really a true melting pot. Yeah. And for me, when people would hand me a business card or say something nice to me about my work and tell me that they wanted to work with me or they wanted to do something like this in their town or at their space, being in love with the process means the next day you gotta send that email to that business card, and you have to address that person with respect to the way they addressed you when you were working. No matter what city, no matter the disposition, no matter if they're intoxicated and happy and maybe talking a little too much while you're trying to work, the only reason that energy is coming from them is because you've moved the needle. You've touched them in a way that's moved them to action. And I would show up on the other end of that action. And 5 years in, I'm playing at other bigger venues in New York. I'm playing at other bigger venues in Philadelphia because Philadelphia is recognizing that I took my talents to New York and that I was missed, for lack of a better way to put it. People from other cities across the country, people from other cities internationally. I'm only in town for 4 days, and praise God, my friend brought me here. This is amazing. I'd like to do this in Paris or London or Amsterdam, whatever their city is. I was following up on those calls and being very diligent about that. So there's a back end of work, of follow through, of administration, of secretary work that goes into making sure that not only is the art solid and people enjoy it when it's happening, but there's follow up and there's something going on behind the scenes after the pretty work when nobody's watching to make sure that you continue to grow and move forward.
Yeah. I guess my second part of the question would be then, do you think in this day and age, and let's say in New York City, it's feasible, I guess would be the best word, for somebody to find or get a residency in a small venue, bar, whatever, you know, and with giving the day and age we are in to cultivate and put in their hours and like really make it their own, so to speak, but without the usual pressure of like, well, how many people did you get in? Like, how much did we make at the bar when it was your night? That kind of thing, you know?
I think that protocol that you just touched on is such a key component to answering that question. When people say, I want a residency like that, they'll get a booking. The night will go well. And they expect the venue or the person that booked them to then say, by default, we want you here all the time. It doesn't work like that. Before you even play the first time or immediately after playing there the first time, it's up to you to approach the venue or the space and say, hey, it seemed like the place did well last night. I had a great time. I enjoyed myself. What do you think about doing this on a consistent basis? Do you think that we could maybe do this for 3 months, weekly? See what happens. I'm willing to break that sweat if you guys are willing to take a chance on me. I think that this could be a healthy relationship. Now I'm providing that venue or that promoter a choice. Now the choice is yours. It's my idea. But as psychology goes, if I come to you with that humility, now it's your idea. When you leave that conversation, you're like, you know what? You know, the bar did pretty good last night. And not for nothing, there was a lot of women in there dancing after midnight. That's what we want. This guy's got a good attitude, good disposition. We didn't even pay him that much money. You know, man, thanks for bringing that up. I would like to do this for 3 months with you. Then 2 months in, you have the same conversation again. hey, can I extend my lease? Can we make this 6 months? What do you guys think about this relationship? I mean, man, who would have thought we would be in this situation that we're in? I'm getting the opportunity that I want. I'm getting the light that I want. The bar is ringing. There's money coming in the door. Man, I don't know. I'm not an owner, but it looks to me like could be a good thing. Next thing you know, you're celebrating the 1-year anniversary of your new residency. But without that work, without that diligence, it's just a wish. And people who don't understand the protocols of doing business, more often than not, will be disappointed because they did something, it went well, they had this naive expectation that the next step in the process was just going to be handed to them, but you never get what you deserve. You only get what you negotiate. And negotiation is an interesting word. It's not necessarily a negative negotiation. It could be considered a lobby. You're lobbying for opportunity. You want to be a working class DJ? You want to be out here in the wild playing music for people all the time? Where? With who? On what day? At what frequency? With what type of music? And why should I believe that you are the person that can provide that? You have to be able to answer those questions, even if just for yourself. I'm not saying you have to be able to put it in the public and put it on the internet and make this big statement and then all of a sudden that's not it. It's personal. It's tangible. It's connective tissue to, you want to be a decision maker and call shots about something, you got to talk to other shot callers, because it's another shot caller that's going to give you an opportunity to become the shot caller that you want to become.
Very well put. Thank you. Going further in your journey, another residency that you had pretty much after, or maybe similar also, not similar, simultaneously, with the end of APT was Santos, which was much bigger venue than APT, and it was a Friday, I think, right? So it was like a club night per se.
Real club night.
Yeah, real club night. What at that point, how should I ask this question? In what way did that residency shape your next step as a DJ, as a working DJ? Because at that point, you've already been working for a long time.
Yeah. So prior to Santos, I had Good World, where I became friends with DJ Language, now known as Prince Language. We did that party together for 2 years. Then we moved to Fun under the Manhattan Bridge. Then APT happened, and we were both residents there. And shortly after APT happened, I started my Jumpin' Funk party, the Fela Kuti tribute party, which was also kind of a club night.
Oh, yeah.
But it was very specialized because it was focused around the music of Fela Kuti. So it was compartmentalized in a way. It was unique because no one in the city had addressed the genre of Afrobeat and the artist that Fela is with that kind of focus prior to me, Debbie Seeley, and Trevor Schumacher. So there was a little bit of big club experience going into Santos. But Santos came about because of the simple fact that Q-Tip was a fan of mine. Q-Tip was,
worse things can happen.
I would argue, as much of a fan of mine as I was of him individually as a producer and MC, and him as a member of A Tribe Called Quest. One of the absolute most seminal groups in our lifetime, if not all lifetimes. Tip was coming to the Fun party. Tip was coming to APT almost weekly for 5 years. And in 2005, I had him as a guest at APT. And I think that the musical freedom that I was expressing in that room was really heartwarming for him as an artist that had hit a particular level of commercial fame. So his club DJ experience was really wrapped around commercial. I wouldn't say were radio parties, but I would say they were wrapped around all the pitfalls that come with commercial fame. It's big. You're catering a lot musically to, it's a big room. You got to play what they want and things. Tip was an example of one of the guys that would come to APT. Any of my friends in the recording industry that would come to APT and be like, man, I can't believe you can get away with playing this stuff that you're playing. And I was, I would think to myself, like, get away with it. It didn't make any sense to me until I started understanding scale better. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a multi-platinum recording artist. He's in these commercial rooms and these square, boxy spaces where the art that they put into the space is the coolest thing there. They're not necessarily surrounded by cool people like I am all the time. Oh, shit. That was crazy for me. That was an ill learn. And through that relationship, it was very helpful for both of us because it gave him an opportunity to get back to his roots, and it gave me a taste of the type of scale of a scale of popularity and opportunity that I hadn't experienced before as an artist. And yeah, I want to say it was the end of 05, top of 06 when we began the open party with myself, Q-Tip, and Vashti.
I remember. I really can't. Was it that soon already?
I believe it was. Somebody's going to
say no,
get me right on the timing. But I know it was a good long run that we had before it all ended. We celebrated the Obama inauguration there. Man, so many performers. That was the first time I ever DJ'd with DJ Clark Kent when we had him as a guest. I could say wholeheartedly that Tip made that direct personal interaction, and today Clark has become one of my absolute closest friends on the planet, and someone that I also do another party with that took me to a brand new introduction of scale with the originals, with Clark, D Nice, Tony Touch, and Stretch Armstrong. I got a little comfortable, my bad. But it's just been this cycle of these type of growth spurts. And me, Q-Tip, Vashti at Santos on a Friday night, that was a whole other growth dynamic for me. And a shining example of the type of opportunities that were birthed in putting in that hard work at APT.
Again, I think it goes back to what you mentioned previously about relationships that, you build and you then, I don't want to say use, but, that's where you get your...
In context, that's the way to say it. Because contextually, the intent, you're not there to use anyone, but you're using the fact that you have this relationship to your advantage. 100%. The beautiful thing is that everyone benefits. It's not like you're sneaking out of there with some goods that nobody else got. Everybody wins, even if it doesn't land on them until later or it doesn't show up for them in the way that it shows up for you. It's still a W. As long as the people are leaving smiling, you got to put people out of the room when the lights come up. You did your job.
Oh, yeah. So my next question is a little bit of a weird one for me, even though it's a very simple question. Well, I would assume so, but I realized I never asked you this. I've been to so many of your parties, and I would say I know how you play because I've heard you play so many times. But when you're DJing, or even before you start DJing, like literally right before you start or get on, what do you primarily look for, if there is something that you look for? Not talking about, I need to read the crowd, what the people want, but more so, is there something, obviously, as I asked the question, depends on the time of the day, the space you're in, all the things. But you play different kinds of music, but you also play a lot of what we consider dance music, right? In the electronic field. So I'm wondering if you have anything in particular that, you know, you're playing in a club night, whether it's at Liban or wherever, that you particularly pay attention to.
As a service provider, I believe that it's paramount to respect the fact that your client is always right. If I'm booked by Q-Tip, I know him as a client. I know what he's looking for. I know what he provides his clients as a service provider. So my preparation for that night is rooted in a respect for what my client does, what my client expects, and my ability to not only provide those two things, but to provide something unique. Just the other night, we were together in Brooklyn when I played at 718 Sessions with Danny Crivet. It's Danny fucking Crivet. First of all, oh shit, that's my client? Whew. I gotta pack a fucking lunch tonight. You know? Very much like a Q-Tip. I was buying Tribe Called Quest records and Q-Tip productions for eons before he even knew my name. I was going to the Gallery and Limelight and Body and Soul and all the places. I was buying records from Danny at Dance Tracks for years on end in the 90s before he knew me as a DJ. Those are enormous shoes to fill. I know Danny as a long-playing disco edit guy that is also extremely steeped in house music and extremely steeped in studio production and relationships with artists and DJs that all lit the path for me, all falling behind the one and only Larry Levan. I'm much more Larry Levan than I am anything in my aspirations as a DJ. And now I get to DJ with a guy that was there. I'm DJing with a guy that put the needle to the groove in a fucking Paradise Garage. Different client though, right? I'm trying to draw these illustrations of approach. So it starts with respecting your client, and it starts with your understanding of timing and cadence. Or what am I? I'm booked for what? 3 hours I get to play? What kind of story can I tell? Can I tell a story and complete it in 3 hours? Can I tell a bunch of short stories that all tie in together? You know what? I'm going to prepare myself to do any of those things that I want. If at 10 o'clock I think I want to go this way, and then 20 after 10 something happens, a light hits me a certain way, Danny says something to me, whatever happens, and I change my mind, I can change my mind seamlessly, fluidly, and change the GPS on this trip that we're taking. I like the opportunity to adhere to the protocol and flip the fucking table upside down at the same time at will. It's been a bit of a practice of mine.
Do you, I haven't written this down, but I just, knowing you and having done so many things besides being a DJ for so many years, do you think the more somebody is, what word can I use, invested in the nightlife community? I want to say dance community, but not everybody's necessarily a dancer. But do you think the more somebody is invested in it, prior to maybe becoming a DJ, the better understanding they have once they are in a position of providing sound for other people?
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic question. And we talked about this in the beginning of your DJ journey. And one of the things I said to you was, as a dancer, considering the people that you work out with and study the game with, you have such an advanced ear because you're using your ear to activate your body. If you're now using your ear to activate your hands to provide music for people who have been absorbing music the same way as you have an advantage. When I started my production career, people spoke to me the same way. Man, look at all these fucking... Jill Scott was the first person. She asked me to be on her first album. I thought she wanted to do a spoken word duet. She's like, no, I want you to make me some beats. I was like, I don't make beats. She was like, you do now. You got 3 months.
For real? That was the conversation?
That's how that happened.
Wow.
I became a producer under that language. All this stuff you know about music, and you don't make beats?
That's good.
Well, if you did, I can only imagine what that shit's gonna sound like. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm living proof of that truth. I feel like I've dealt with friends who have looked to diversify their game and provided the same feedback and the same open-ended encouragement to dig into it and do the work that nobody needs to see, do the work in the dark. And when you're in the dark doing the work and you want to ask questions, ask people like me, because I'm not going to sun you. I'm not going to broadcast you not knowing stuff. Of course you don't know. You just got here. You know what I mean? And being around other people of the salt, like in your question, do I believe that someone who's vested makes a better practitioner? Absolutely. The more you care, the better you do it. I don't care what the discipline is. Discipline for discipline, style for style, lifestyle for lifestyle. The more vested you are, the better you are at it. The more people of a like mind that you have around you, the better you're going to continue to get. That's that end game conversation, right? This is where that end game shit is out the window. It's process. I'm still getting better. I'm getting better in a DJ booth. I'm getting better in the studio. I'm getting better socially. I'm getting better with my time management. I'm getting better with my energy expenditure. That's how I'm able to maintain at my age. It's how I'm able to stay as busy as I am without falling to the theoretical pitfalls of aging. Oh, you're so-and-so years old. You're still doing that? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. And what are you doing? Aside from lamenting over things that you used to do that you think you're too old to do, or you've allowed your life to get the best of you to the degree that you stop doing the things that turn you on and get you motivated and make you happy. I don't exist in that narrative. That's not who I am. Nor are we going to continue to have these conversations. If we're going to talk, I'm going to be trying to talk you off the couch. You're not going to talk me to the couch. It's not going to happen at all. It's infeasible. It's the lifeblood of relationships like ours. And I don't mean to keep making it personal, but it is fucking personal. You know what I'm saying? This is where it's at, man. This is how it goes. Or leave me alone. Make me better, or get off my lawn, man. If you're there to make me better, you can stand on the chairs. You can do anything, because I know when the lights come up, you're going to help me clean the place. And we're going to do it all over again tomorrow, because you're vested, because you give a damn, because you feel like you want this thing to be right. That's all I'm trying to encourage in people.
Given the fact that you've been traveling so extensively over all the years and you've seen different dance floors and the different demographics that come with said dance floors, what are some of the changes that you've seen? Yeah, obviously over the years, but maybe specifically after the pandemic that are drastic, other than the phones that are, not going away.
I think that the fundamental level of voyeurism in the world jumped through the fucking galaxy over quarantine. You're stuck at home fundamentally. The only way you were experiencing the world at large and the people who you think or thought were on the same page as you was vicarious. You're looking through a machine or through an apparatus. And I think that voyeurism, once the world opened back up, that voyeurism is now part and parcel of everyday life.
Exactly.
So when people come to the venue, APT, when I was at APT, doors were at 10 o'clock. I was in there between 9 and 9:30. 9:45, there was 10 people outside waiting to get in. 8 of them probably just came from a E.J. Wilson class or a Marjorie Smart class or a Michelle Bird class or a Ladies of Hip Hop event or something around dance culture, and they knew that the room wasn't going to get full until 11. So they came in there to spread out and get busy in the early part of the night. The voyeurs in that room were usually people that aren't part of dance culture at large and new to the space, new to the musical style, and trying to adapt and observe the people who are the real participants so that they can understand the lay of the land. Some of those voyeurs were a voyeur for a month. Month 2, they've had a conversation with you, or Be Polite, or Jeffrey, or Brooklyn Terry, or whoever. They're really an aspiring dancer, but they don't want to be seen as the first person on the dance floor. How do I get over that? If I'm really intent about that, I'm going to talk to the people that I've seen dancing at this thing. And where else do you go? Who do you hang out with? How did you learn about this place? That once voyeur is now in the community. That synergy of finding your way into communities is different now. It's way different. It's an observer's world. Even to the degree that people will come out, people who were once very physical and very kinetic in the space will now come out and catch 15 to 20 minutes worth of documentation of the night and share it to the public that's not in the room as it's happening, as a means to say, look where I am and you're not. But what kind of good time are you having?
It's interesting because I just thought about this earlier this morning about the party that, yeah.
What kind of good time are you having? If your whole merit is based on na, I'm here and you're not. Look, real time, I'm here. So what? Why don't you just enjoy it and talk about it the next day or a couple days later? So there's this like selfishness that I don't think was present prior to the quarantine that we all have to deal with to varying degrees. But positive intent and a focus and a desire to break that in time, you'll find your tribe. You'll find the people that aren't behaving that way.
Yeah. What you just described, I'm always wondering, like, out of those, the person taking footage or, like, you know, as you say, being that selfish person, you're not in the experience, you're not having a great experience, and you're not providing a good experience for the people who view it because they see it on the screen. So there's at least two people losing. But yeah, that's just my personal 2 cents. Do you have a quote unquote perfect dance floor where all the elements that need to happen for it to be perfect? Or how do you define perfect? I guess that would be the question.
I think a night like I had 2 nights ago in Brooklyn at the Good Room with Danny Crivet was a perfect dance floor. Danny owns his brand to the bone. His fan base is loyal and they love him to pieces. He's got a team of people around him that take care of the other things, the door, the merchandise, the guest DJ, who's on the guest list and all that. Danny can focus on the music. Danny's focus on the music is why he's had full, perfect dance floors for the last 40 plus years. For me, as a guy that's a generation behind Danny, to come into that space and to be welcomed as a guest that's worthy of his time, not only worthy of a 2-hour guest slot, but worthy of Danny saying, hey, you want to play the next record? And we can play a couple of records apiece. To my understanding, that's not his usual path. Why is that? I don't know. But when his people are coming to me in the middle of the night like, dude, you have no idea how important what's happening is right now. I've been working with Danny for X amount of years. I've been following Danny for X amount of years. I've never seen him share the primetime space in that way. I didn't know. I thought it's just how it go. You know, a closed mouth will never get fed. I asked the question. He responded in kind. Here we are sharing the space. And his room is also like, holy shit, look at these guys. Look at the way they're getting along. Man, I haven't seen Danny smile that much. Not that he's a frowny person, but I'm saying these are literal words that are coming to me through the night. And then the party's over, the lights are up, and 50% of the room is still there. We actually have to put them out. Doesn't get no more perfect than that to me, you know? So that's a great example of a perfect dance floor to me. Any given night from Tuesday to Sunday at my place in Miami at Dante's, I think every night in there is a perfect dance floor because it looks like a lounge and people are always dancing. You expect people to dance to DJs with a big, giant national or international following and cachet, but I book people who are only regional or local stars in Miami, and some of them draw as well as, if not better than, some of the stars that we book. So Dante's is perfect to me in a sense of being an open gym. I got champions in my gym. I tell this to people all the time. Like, I got people in every weight class who are defending a belt that work out in my gym. I also got 10 guys in my gym that just got punched in the mouth for the first time last week, and they want to learn how to defend themselves. What a beautiful space for somebody to hold on to their championship and get better. And come on in here. You never been in a fight before? Okay. Let's show. We ain't going to teach you about fighting. It's not about that. Nobody that goes to the gym because they want to fight. You go to the gym to stop fights. How do you stop fights? By defending yourself. And of course, I'm talking about this musically, but I think that the analogy lands for people. So, yeah, it comes in different forms, but that perfection is what we're always chasing.
Is there some general two pieces of advice? One for newish, however you define that, DJs. One on the craft side of DJing itself, and one of the maybe more emotional side, industry side. I know it's a big topic, but if it's just two things that you can give to the next person or to the young, it doesn't have to be young, I'm not young either, but
I would say anybody looking to come into this game, respect the fact that somebody that does it for a hobby does it until they get it right. You want to be a professional, you practice it till you can't do it wrong. Both are okay. I think
like a chef,
when you illustrate those points, those of us with the experience, sometimes we can come off condescending to the person that's not yet a professional, or they only do it as a hobby. So there's this talking down at them energy. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is recognize the difference between those two people. And in time, you'll learn which one of them you are. Whichever one of them you are, do the hard work when nobody's watching, so that when you present publicly, it shows your effort, it shows your diligence. The people who are cheering for you, the people who want to see you succeed, when you show them progress without them having to be buried in the process with you and talking them to death all day, every day about what you're trying to do, just do it, man. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how many hours Kobe Bryant put in with a shooting coach. Nobody cares how many hours Messi spends with a soccer ball when nobody's watching. But it's those hours, that's why he's a magician at primetime. Myself personally, as soon as I leave here, I'm going to the record store. I got 60,000 plus records in my collection, and I'm still going to the shop and asking questions. Who is this? What song is that? What's the newest things that have come in? What is in here that you think that I need to know about that I don't know about? Just to keep your blade sharp, There's an old joke that goes around. It's been in a bunch of movies where, some character in the movie is like, I stay ready so I ain't got to get ready. Like, that's real. That's really real out here. So, my advice is respect the 10,000 hours. Respect yourself by engaging anybody around you who's willing to engage you about what you want to learn. And apply yourself to the information and keep going, keep cooking. Don't expect that you're going to get this, the day of the overnight sensation. That's a fairy tale. That's a commercial recording industry fairy tale that's been over for well over 10 years. It's only going to come through sweat equity. Something sustainable is only going to come through sweat equity. Something that's yours, not you being given an opportunity in some platform that advances you money that you have to pay back in order for the opportunity. That's not what we're talking about here, I believe. We're talking about independent. You want to be an independent contractor and find your own way. You got to find your tribe, and you got to get your ass to work. And, God will provide from there, I think.
Was there a particular point in your career or a specific event that happened that made you realize that you're in your own lane? Or it's at what point? Because it spans over so many decades. Yeah. I wonder,
When APT closed and I had a falling out with Q-Tip and my time at Santos came to an end. So that was 2009, 2010. And I remember being really hurt about all of it, but I didn't have time to wallow in that because the way that people were talking to me about it and the way that, okay, my Wednesdays and Fridays have just opened up and holy shit, there's 100 other venues in New York that I've never played at. And 30 of those venues, the primary promotional person there is a fan of mine. You know? It was like, oh shit, I've been in a bubble. I've been functioning in this little galaxy of my own. And because it's a galaxy of its own and I'm so focused on the people who are in it and what I'm doing in it, you forget that there's a whole universe of shit going on out here, and some of these people out here are paying attention to this little world that you've created for yourself. And just the types of conversations that started coming my way. It was prior to all of that, but the ending of those two things and my ability to fall into touring and to fall into being a gun for hire at other venues, still looking for that APT look, still looking for that Santos look, and it never really happened again. It was just a series of consistent relationship-based bookings, or one of my branded. I was at Come On Everybody for 9 years. I did home there for 9 years. I was at House of Yes for 8 years.
It's LPR.
LPR for 12 years with Apocalypse after APT. And shouts to Apocalypse, man. God damn it. Without that dude upstairs and providing a counterbalance for what I did downstairs at APT, there would be no me as I am. And I would argue that he very well may have not gone on to be who he is now, which is basically the A&R brains and organizational brains of Big Crown Records.
Right. Shout out to Danny. I ran into him on the G train. That's how we met.
Really?
Yeah.
Such an ill dude. And Babito. And Language. And Citizen Kane. And that, man, it's just so stretch. So many people to name and thank for being part and parcel of that situation and giving me an opportunity to carve my own lane out, for giving me a means, you know. If that's my gym, I got a crazy Muay Thai guy, a crazy boxer, crazy wrestling guy, crazy jiu-jitsu guy, and I'm just in the gym with these guys like learning shit, you know. Oh, you do that way? Holy shit, I didn't even think about doing, oh my God. I'm leaving that space every day with something to grow on and applying myself. Application. I think that we all know people who have incredible theory, can philosophize and theorize with you all day, but then take them out of the simulator and put them into action and they're frozen, you know? And then there's people that apply. You know, here we are, we're sitting in a space that's rooted in application and diligence and effort and consistency and showing up when it ain't easy to show up. All the shit that goes into, you know, the sunshine and the rain makes the grass grow, right? Most of our fans don't see those rainy days. And that's where the application, I think, is most pertinent. But yeah, 2010 in particular, that was when it was 100% clear to me that there's only so many notes on the keyboard, but I present them very uniquely compared to my peer group.
So now looking forward, what are there any ventures in that you have coming up in the future that you either like or can share? looking back at one of the previous interviews in the pandemic, you said, I've never been home for 6 months. I'm 50 something years old. Now you're back to traveling like crazy. At least that's how it seems to me. And you're, I don't want to say, you're not old, but you're seasoned. Yeah, a lot of people in their a lot of DJs maybe in their 30s, they'll be like, I don't want to travel like that anymore because it's tiring, but you seem to be in good shape. As you said even earlier yourself, besides you continuing to do that, which I would assume that you like to do, are there some things that you have yet to do that you haven't had the chance to do?
Absolutely. You know, I think it's time for some books. It's time for me to take the effort that I've put in to education, particularly cultural education, in the last 15 years. I've bounced around a few different universities. I've bounced around a few different cultural institutions, trying my hand as an educator. I think that I have some future in that space. My son is a junior in high school now. I joke with his mom that, 17, 18, 19 is my turn to breastfeed. It's time for me to, and I don't mean that in a chauvinistic manner. I swear to God, it's just an inside joke with me and my kid's mom. And shouts to Tracy, love you.
Yes.
I got a young man to groom. I got time to make up because the way my career is set up and the way his mother and my family enabled me to remain my natural self through the first 15 years of his life. I got some time to put in, hands-on time. I mean, we hand in glove. That's my man, 50 grand, but it's time for me to get some of that direct in the face. You're going into the next phase of your life. These are some things that you really need, and you need them from me and your stepdad. Dante's Hi-Fi is 3 years old now. I can only hope and pray that in the next 5 years we become 8 years old and we have a location in at least one other city, if not two. And keep learning, keep learning, and keep developing. And I never want to be the old guy that's looking back like, oh yeah, I used to be able to, or I used to do that. I don't want to say that. I want to be able to call on my skill set at will for the rest of my life. And to do that without being so reliant on travel. I love it. I love the game, but I could stand to sit still a little bit more than I do. And without sitting still a little bit more than I do, how do you write a book? How do you do education? How do you change dynamics of your parenting without slowing down? How does that happen? What does that look like? I feel like I'm in the process of getting there. I think it's going to show its face before the end of 2025. I'm going to be able to answer that question a hell of a lot better, I think.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, nice.
My last question is usually the hardest. And prior to coming here, you asked me, so no records? And I said, nah, you don't have to bring any records. There's a lot of interviews where you talk about your favorite records for all situations. But here I ask you to just name me 3. If you want to name me 4 or 5, be my guest. Tracks that you associate with dance. And since this is such a broad question, I'm a specify and ask you to give me your favorite dance tracks that you like to dance to. Because just in case people don't know, Rich gets down.
3.
Or 4 or 5.
Damn.
If it's 2, I'm fine.
Black Ivory, Mainline. Craig Loftus, Mary St. Mary. Man, you make it difficult.
Told you, right? It's the most
Carrie
difficult.
Chandler, Rain. Everything in the Masters at Work catalog. Everything.
Add another thousands.
Yeah, you need 57 interviews just to name them.
Exactly.
Frontline Orchestra, Don't Turn Your Back on Me. Isaac Hayes, I Can't Turn Around. Carl Bean, I Was Born This Way.
I already lost count, so don't feel pressure.
That's a nice
was-
little smattering of records that I've always really, really loved.
Yeah, I know. I recognize at least 3 that I, so to speak, stay in your bag.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, like can't do without them. That's a slippery slope too, like trying to be diverse all the time, but then you just got these monsters that they just won't leave me alone. The records just will not leave me alone. Some of them 30, 40 years will not leave me alone. But that's the definition of a classic, right?
Understandable. Yeah. That was it. Other than that, is there anything else that you want to get off your chest that I haven't asked about? I mean, I talked about.
No, man. I mean, I'm thankful to be here. Glad to see that you're doing your thing and continuing to interview people and continuing the work. It was nice to have you at Dante's doing your thing.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to coming back eventually.
We'll do some more of that. And yeah, man, just thankful to be here. Thankful that people that knew me well before things got loud for me still find me agreeable and reachable. It's very humbling when the people who knew me before the star stuff came around still show up for me. So this is it's great for me.
No, I gotta thank you, Rich. Thank you for coming. Thank you for hitting the Ubers, the NYC expensive Ubers.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Yeah, no, thank you. And also, yeah, that was a long time coming. I feel like your schedule. Do you have an assistant? Do you need an assistant? Because I don't know.
Thank God for Scott Barkham.
Shout out to Scott.
Shouts to Scott, man.
He makes things happen.
15 years.
Already?
15 years been working with Scott. And Scott's been, man, he's like the Alfred to my Batman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Alfred, I need the oil slick. Can you activate the oil slick in the Batmobile? He's like, sure thing, Batman. It's crazy. Crazy that relationship has kept me super busy, and it's only getting better.
Yeah. We'll have another discussion at some point, hopefully not another 4 years, but we'll see how that will go. To all the listeners and viewers, thank you again. I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.